Hey everyone, Jeff with the Death Star Human Resources Department newsletter, podcast edition. I am joined by my friend Chris Wilbur, who, if you're reading on Substack, writes the 100 Star Wars scenes on Substack. Chris, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, so first off, if you haven't subscribed or followed the Death Star Human Resources Department newsletter, you can do that at deathstarhr.com. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Chris, where can people find your writing?
Well, yeah, right there on Substack. It was formerly called My Top 100 Favorite Star Wars Scenes, but I've changed the title to now Our Favorite Star Wars Scenes. We'll get into that later, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
All right. So basically, what you did is this sounds like it might have been an undertaking. Is you basically watched the Skywalker saga and then ranked your top 100 scenes of it.
Correct.
So, for starters, kind of, I think most people, if they're ranking Star Wars, they'll be like, oh, I'm, my top 10 Jedi, my top 10, characters from the sequel trilogy, characters from the prequels, or they rank their Star Wars movies or maybe TV shows they like. But this is the first time I had really never seen something getting kind of that granular. So what kind of gave you the idea to kind of drill down this much and do it by scenes?
Okay, I originally got the idea a long time ago, but it was in this galaxy. And it was, remember when, I don't know, how Rotten Tomatoes used to have message boards.
Mm-hmm.
I participated in it a little, but not that much. I mostly just read other people's message boards. And one of them was, my top 50 favorite Star Wars scenes.
Okay.
I even remember the guy's screen name. It was like the Blue Bomber. It would be so weird if he listened to this podcast and contacted me.
But anyways, if you're listening, drop us a comment. We'd love to know what you're up to.
Yeah, and he had an avatar. I even remember his avatar was of the Iron Giant.
All right, we're gonna track this guy down.
Okay, but anyways, yeah, and he did, and it was really good. It was really well written, and I thought to myself, boy, that would be really fun to do, just ranking my favorite Star Wars scenes, and the only thing though is that I mean he's entitled to his opinion, of course, but and this was back when there was only 6 movies. But it was like 90% original trilogy and a few prequels scenes. He did just like one of Phantom Menace, one of Attack of Clones, a few of Revenge of the Sith, and then the rest of the original trilogy. Well, like I said, man's entitled to his opinion. But I just thought, if I did a list, I would definitely include much more of everything,
So this is something that's kind of been percolating in your head for a while.
Oh yeah, definitely. I never thought about, they're just, I never actually thought about writing it down until later. And it was like, when I found out some years later, it must have been like about 5 years later, that was when they announced the George Lucas has sold Lucasfilm, and they were making the sequel trilogy. I thought to myself, okay, well, I guess I gotta wait now. I gotta wait to watch these movies because this is going to be part of the list. And so, even though I did have scenes in mind, I never really wrote anything down. It was just all in my head.
I think it's interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So, I was just waiting. I just waited and waited until all the movies came out.
I think it's interesting too, in that, whenever this guy did it before, whenever Mr. Bomber did this before, the sale to Disney, in that time frame, you've definitely kind of had I guess I would call it like a critical reevaluation of the prequels. That, I kind of joke that the prequel kiddies, memed their way to respectability on Reddit or on the, the internet. That if you make enough Darth Plagueis jokes, eventually people will think, okay, yeah, maybe the sequel or the prequels aren't so bad.
Yes.
All right. So when you set out to do this, you decided, all right, we've got 1 through 9, everything's out. Did you sit down and like watch everything with a notebook? Like how long did it take you to come up with with your list?
Yes, I did have a notebook. That's exactly correct. I was watching the 9 movies, and as I was watching them, I wrote down the scenes that would possibly be on the list. And of course, I came up with way more than 100 scenes.
Right.
I came up with like 145.
Okay.
That was those scenes that got cut. I also wrote about eventually.
Yes.
My last few posts on Substack were about those scenes.
Yeah. You're not the only person I've talked to that watches Star Wars or watches what they're doing with a notebook. Shane Elliott, who's been on the podcast a couple times with his kind of ranking system, he sits and watches everything with a notebook, and I don't know if I'd find that. I might find that fun. I should actually try that. I've had an idea to kind of reevaluate The Rise of Skywalker, which is always on the bottom of my list, and I would have to watch it with a notebook. So maybe I'll give it a shot one of these days.
Okay, keep in mind, this is the only time I've ever watched movies with a notebook. This is it. That's not a normal thing I do.
Not your regular habit.
No.
All right. So I want to start with, were there any scenes that you left out, that really, like, when you watched it in real time, you thought, oh, for sure, this is going to be a top 100. And then, kind of when you got done after you looked at everything, was there anything we were like, it's just not going to make the cut?
I guess the scene that came, for the most part, no, there wasn't that many.
Mm-hmm.
But the one scene that comes to mind that I do kind of feel bad about not being in the top 100 was when, in Revenge of the Sith, when Palpatine duels with Mace Windu, mm-hmm. and Anakin officially joins the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
That is such an important scene, but it didn't make it. And the reason why was because it's one of those things, I hope I can explain this coherently, that can be super great.
Mm-hmm.
You see little flaws in it, and every time you watch it, you see those little flaws,
mm-hmm.
and it makes it less great. And that makes them more irritating, even though they're little flaws.
Mm-hmm.
They're just more irritating because you're just like, if those little flaws weren't there, this would just be like, one of the best scenes ever.
It's one of those things that once you see it, like, that's all you can focus on.
Right. And it didn't, I guess it didn't help that scene was kind of in the trailer, in mm-hmm. that the part where Palpatine kind of like goes, gets out his lightsaber and goes berserk.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that trailer like a billion times, and I guess it was just set in my mind. That's the way it was. The way it was edited was the way it was supposed to be in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it in the film, it didn't work. It was like the Jedi were just kind of standing there while Palpatine killed them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like he was like going to, I don't know. It was like Palpatine wasn't going fast enough or something. And I was just like,
mm-hmm.
It's weird. And it always irked me, it worked so much better in the trailer than it did in the actual movie, because I just absolutely love that in the trailer. That made me go like, whoa, oh my gosh, he's just going at them like a viper or something. And then the movie, it's just kind of like, there's like a little extra shot here. And
mm-hmm.
he says it's treason. He pulls out his lightsaber and then says it's treason then, when it should have been it's treason then. Then he pulls out the lightsaber and goes straight at him. It's just like, they saw it coming. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things, and I felt bad about it because my friend, who I watch movies with once or twice a week,
mm-hmm.
asked me hey, is that scene on there? Because that's one of his favorite scenes. And I'm just like, no.
Well,
I'm sorry, dude.
you know,
And
you
I
could have
gave
at
him,
least you could have let him down gently. Just be like, well, I'm thinking about it. It might be.
well, that's the thing.
Oh,
He subscribes to the Substack, so he would know when he's like, hey, where's that scene? Where's that scene? So, of course, I had to come clean with him. Because I already made at
oh
that point,
man.
I'd already made the list. Here's the thing about the list I didn't say before. I actually wrote this list years ago. Okay, I didn't write it for Substack. I wrote it for like a blog maybe I was going to do, but I don't know much about blogging. And then when I came across Substack, because of just a writer that I really liked started going on Substack, and I followed him. And then I was looking around at Star Wars Substacks, and I was just like, maybe this is it. Maybe I don't have to create my own blog. I can just put it on the Substack. Because I never heard of Substack before. Most people haven't. When I tell them I have a Substack, they were like, "What's Substack?"
Yeah. No, that is definitely a reaction. It is always a little interesting how people I think find Substack. Like I found it. It's been a few years now. Maybe I started in 23, so probably 22. There was a baseball writer. He's not on Substack anymore. A baseball writer that I really liked, and I would read his stuff, and then eventually I was like, you know what, I could write something. Why not?
Right. So
all right. So I want to skip ahead a little.
Yeah. Oh. So the fact I wasn't dishing out these things like writing like zoom zoom zoom. This took me like I wrote down my notes. I wrote down my scenes. I thought about what scenes I was going to include and everything. I wrote about every scene. I sorted them and I ranked the top 10. This took about a year. Okay, so that's how long it took me, and that was from
that was going to be my next question from like start to finish. What was kind of the time frame on it?
Yes, it was about a year. Keep in mind, I don't have a lot of free time, and it was just like, let's see, it started, I think, the end of 2021. I think. And then I moved. Yeah, it was maybe like a year later, or maybe it's 2022, beginning 2022. I don't know. All I know is it took about a year to write the whole thing.
I mean, I think you could definitely call it a labor of love there. Then.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right,
I just
there were a couple I wanted to talk.
Yeah, it's. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just one of those things. Like you hear, like people. Writers, they have to there's a book they have in their mind, and if they don't write that book, they're going to go crazy. It was kind of like that, It was just, it's like, yeah, I have to write this thing. I don't know. I have to get it out of me, and I'm not, I'm not like a professional writer in any way, shape, or form, but I had to write this,
So one of the things I have always thought interesting, looking at, I don't remember when I started. When I found your post, or like when I started reading, I was trying to look back and see if I could figure it out. But I think one thing I wanted to skip ahead a little bit is there are some scenes I think a lot of Star Wars fans would either have ranked higher, or some that I thought that you picked out that I think a lot of people might, and maybe I'm just projecting on what I think a lot of people would think, and really it's just me. Oh, yeah. But some scenes that there are probably some Star Wars fans who'd be like, why is that there? So there are a couple I picked out that, I'm not putting you on the hot seat or anything, but I am demanding you explain yourself.
Yes.
No. Kind of the first one I had. And so for anyone who hasn't read this, you basically broke it down kind of into tiers. You have bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum is 10 through 2 or 10 through
correct.
Yes, and then diamond is your number one scene.
Yes. So which I just that was I did that on the seat of my pants. The whole thing putting number one as diamond. I don't know. I just
no, that was a good call. So the first one under kind of the one I picked out. So under bronze, you had the cantina scene from A New Hope, and I think for a lot of people that would be kind of your introduction to that this is a really strange world. Up until then, you have the droids, you have Darth Vader, you have the stormtroopers, you have Luke, but you have primarily human or humanoid creatures, maybe Jawas notwithstanding. And then you get into the cantina, and I think a lot of it too is the audience gets to kind of see it through Luke's eyes almost, and you're seeing this weird not magical, weird mystical, weird interesting, otherworldly place. And I think for a lot of people, maybe that's kind of when you can say, okay, Star Wars, this is something different. And I'm curious, I mean, Bronze is still pretty good. There's a lot of scenes in Star Wars over 9 movies. Making the top 100 is still good. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people who may have had that a little higher, and I'm kind of curious as to why you put it there.
All right. There's something I want to preface with this. Mm-hmm. Something I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Blue Bombers list was that he didn't rank. It was his kind of his personal thing. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, the objective greatest scenes or most important scenes.
Right.
I don't really see the point in writing something like that because it's been written about so many times.
Right.
And it's basically the same scenes,
Yeah.
I Am Your Father is number 1. It's almost always number 1. The thing I liked about Blue Bombers, he actually put I Am Your Father number 5, which I thought was, and his number 1 was Yoda lifting the X-wing out of the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh, that's so different. I love that. And it's like if I did that, I would do it like the same way. And I'm not intentionally being different or this is just how I am. I'm just being honest. It's just like that, I'm a different kind of guy. And I like things that are not always, the same as what most fans would like.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I really love it. I love the cantina scene. I mean, it made the list, but relatively speaking, it's not that important. It's not that high up for me. It doesn't resonate. I ranked it based on how does it resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I called it my top 100 favorite Star Wars scenes. These are not the greatest Star Wars scenes. These are not the most important Star Wars scenes. These are my favorites. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all subjective, and I think I commented a couple times when you had, and I'm looking at your list. Duel of the Fates in silver. The one I really thought was interesting was you did have the I Am Your Father scene in silver, and I just thought that is an interesting choice. Again, it's all subjective. It's what moves you, but that is. Like you said, that is almost going to be universally declared, if not number 1. I think most people would probably put that in, top 10 minimum.
Oh yeah, easily.
And I thought that was really interesting. That and kind of I guess the Luke versus Vader Escape from Cloud City and the I Am Your Father, you can kind of tie those two together. I have them; they're right next to each other on your list. So I guess what is it about kind of the I Am Your Father scene that you're like, is it just you've seen it so many times?
I guess it's just, I mean, even as a child, I always knew the twist. If I had been there in 1980, it definitely would have been the top 5, because it's just that's mind blowing. I mean, and you put yourself in the place of someone back then. It's just like, goodness gracious. There's nothing wrong with the scene. That's the thing. It just doesn't resonate with me personally like other scenes do. I'm not going to say they did something wrong. There's something weird about it.
Right.
It's not. I mean, it just, like I said, what resonates with you more. It's just,
When you were watching it, or kind of when you were watching everything, when you were putting your list together, what is it that grabs you? What is it in a scene, or what is it in a sequence or whatever that makes you say, okay, this is something that speaks to me. This is something, either as a Star Wars fan or as a human or, whatever you're into, that really kind of grabs your attention or really kind of makes you say, okay, this is a good one.
It's just, it's you go with your guts, that's the thing. It's just how have I, responded to this? How has it stayed with me? Because I've watched these movies so many times,
Right.
all of them. Even though The Force Awakens is my least favorite, I still think it's a near great movie. I've still seen it like 8 or 9 times.
Right.
And and yeah, and it's just like, and sometimes things just touch me personally. Like the Vader is unmasked and he dies, and didn't didn't resonate with me as a little kid. But when I got older and was being more, introspective, especially in my relationship with my father, which was not the best, it just meant so much more to me. I just got it on another level.
I think I think it shows that there's movies definitely speak to us in different ways as we kind of as we go through life, and the stuff you see when you're a teenager and you watch the movies watch the movies for the first time as a little kid, you pick up on different things later on in life, just as you have life experience.
Yeah. That what you're saying reminds me of a really good scene in the movie 12 Monkeys, when they're in the theater and he's watching Vertigo, and he comments, he's like, you watch movies at different points in life. The movie doesn't change; it's you that changes.
That's
and so
yeah. All right, so I want to talk a little bit, getting into kind of your top 10 list, and for anyone who hasn't read this, spoiler alert, we're gonna give a few away. So the one I thought was interesting that you put on there was Snoke's flagship, which is also a really cool scene. Is actually a scene that I really like a lot too. From the Last Jedi, and kind of what was it in that one that kind of grabbed you?
Goodness gracious! If I could go back,
I'm asking to remember stuff from years ago.
Right. If I could go, I mean, just The Last Jedi was. I saw that Christmas Day, 2017, because my friend just bought tickets for me and for us, and I had just had the worst day of work ever. And I was just like, ugh. And, it's just a surprise. Oh, we're going to see The Last Jedi. I was like, oh, okay. And it just completely turned around my day. It was great. And that scene was just the way they set it up and everything. It makes you think it's going to be Return of the Jedi. And, I mean, even Rey is just like, yeah, you saved your father, and all that sort of thing. And she thinks she can do the same with Ben Solo. But, Luke warns her, she goes anyways. And, I'm thinking it's built up so well. And I'm thinking to myself, dang, how is this going to turn out? Is it going to be like Return of the Jedi? Is she really going to turn him? Or what's going to happen? It's just, and the twists and turns, and just I mean, and when, especially the scene when Snoke's giving his famous last words, and you see the lightsaber turn, and you just know what's going to happen. And I couldn't. Yeah. You had to hold me down from yelling out, "Goodbye, Snoke," and good night. And when it happened, just the intensity of it, and then seeing the Red Guards fight, because I always want to see those Red Guards fight. We've only seen them fight in video games. And just the great synergy of all the storylines coming together at the end. It was just like I was just it was just mind blowing. And I just hit that that hit of just excitement, and sometimes when it was not when it was on video, I would just watch that scene, that whole sequence, just watch that. I would even watch the rest of the movie. It was like, okay, I got like 30 minutes. I'm just watching this, and I just
that is pretty familiar. I remember when Phantom Menace came out on VHS. That is, it was released. I went and bought it at midnight. with a friend of mine. We went to a Meijer. It's a grocery store in the Midwest. They're open 24 hours, kind of like a super Target. And went at midnight, got it, went back to my apartment. I was in college, and we just immediately queued up Duel of the Fates, like right then and there at 1 in the morning or whatever. So that is a cool scene. I really liked seeing that one on there.
Yeah. The weird thing is that that's not a normal thing I did like before. I never usually I just when I watch a movie, I if I want to watch that scene, I watch the whole movie. But this just like I don't know, maybe it's because I just had less time on my hands and I couldn't just watch the whole movie or what. But yeah, I kept going back to just that section, that sequence. And so yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to get to, did you always, your number one scene is kind of the you titled it Return of the Jedi, the death of Luke saving Darth Vader, allowing him to not be a Sith, not be Darth Vader, die as Anakin Skywalker with the light side. Did you kind of always have that in mind as your number one, or was that kind of you were going through your choices and you're like, that's the one that wins out?
Yeah, that was always in my mind. At least as far as I've been thinking about this list. Yes, that was always number one. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is just it. What more can you really say about that scene?
Right. Well, I do like the fact that when I put it out there, hey, guess what my favorite scene is? You're the only one who responded, and you got it right, and you even got my reasons right. It's like, oh, well, you're Catholic. That's the redemption thing, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like, yeah, exactly.
I told you offline. My day job is I'm a lawyer. That's how we think. I know. I really. I'm just looking over your list. The top 10 is it's tough to argue about. The only other one that I thought was, not that I necessarily disagree with, but I just thought was interesting that a lot of other people might not have, is kind of the arena scene from Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
It's a cool scene.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it wasn't just the arena scene. Now, to be fair, my pictures are all from the arena. Okay.
Right.
But in the post itself, I actually write about basically the last, practically the last third act of the movie.
Yeah.
That was not, I played it kind of loose with scenes. That was actually a string of scenes that I just put all together, which is why I didn't call it the Battle of Geonosis or the Colosseum. I called it Monsters and Jedi and Clones. Oh my,
yes.
because it just encompasses the Colosseum, the Battle of Geonosis, and then the Duel of Count Dooku, all of it. Because it's just like, I was just so amazed at how, this is like 25 minutes of pretty much sustained action. The only breathers you really get is them talking in the war room with the Geonosians and Count Dooku. That's it. Other than that, it's just constant action. But it's never repetitive. It's never tiresome. It holds up over multiple viewings. At least it did for me. And I just thought that was just amazing how Lucas was able to do that. It just, it's astounding. I mean, obviously, after all these years, it doesn't have the effect it used to back when I was, younger. But still, I mean, it was just, I think that's just a great unsung, feat in action, filmmaking. All cinema. I'm not kidding.
I actually.
Yeah.
I actually think unsung is a good way to put it, because I kind of feel like Attack of the Clones is kind of it's the middle movie, but it's also kind of the middle child in that, people talk the Phantom Menace and everyone has their opinion on the Phantom Menace, but if nothing else, people are going to say, yeah, Duel of the Fates was awesome. The pod racing scene is really cool. And then, everybody's, Attack of the Sith is, or Attack of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith is, you have Anakin turning, you have, the scene on Mustafar,
right.
all that. And, Attack of the Clones kind of gets lost in the mix. But I think back to seeing it in the theater and the scene where, you basically have the army of Jedi, that land on the clone drop ships. And, just to see all these Jedi warriors run into battle is... I mean, it's something we obviously hadn't seen before. I mean, we had
I don't think
the
we've seen
original
it since.
yeah. Yeah, really. I mean, the original trilogy, you just see Obi-Wan and Vader, you see Luke and Vader, the what am I drawing a blank? It's been a day. Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan and
Mhm,
Qui-Gon, have all the Jedi action. And
mhm.
then, to see, Mace Windu and the rest of the Jedi Council and everybody just show up. That's, on a big screen, that was just incredible.
Yes, yes. If my memory serves me, I mean, I think I actually cheered at that scene when you see all the Jedi running towards the clones,
Hmm.
and I don't think I was the only one in the theater who did that. You know, you
It
know.
is funny. I think it is hard to believe too. Next year is the 25th anniversary of Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, I
I
know,
am
right?
I am hoping we do get it back in the theater because they had, Phantom
Hmm.
Menace was back for the 25th 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Revenge of the Sith was in the theaters last year,
Right.
which that was a blast.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, those were kind of the two that I picked out that I kind of thought were interesting that you picked them. I guess the only other one that I kind of want to talk about is the Return of Luke in The Last Jedi, which I
Hmm.
I love I mean, I'm a Last Jedi defender anyway, but
Hmm.
the ending when they're on Crate, the salt planet, like I think that's such a cool scene. I think the planet is really cool, like how the under the salt, the kind of the red kicks up,
Yes, yes, yes.
and the way kind of the shots of just like Luke staring down the First Order.
Right.
I just thought that was so cool, and that was another one that I was really glad to see that you had that in
Yes,
there.
yes. Mm.
All right. Trying not to take too much of your time. So how I do like to ask people this kind of what's actually let's two things. So you've written your 100 scenes. Um, what's kind of next? What are you gonna do the TV shows, the other couple movies, like kind of what's kind of next for your stuff set? Because I certainly hope you don't stop writing.
Yeah. Well, me personally, I'm stepping aside a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and I'm letting others write about their favorite scenes, which is
Mm-hmm.
why I redubbed the Substack our favorite Star Wars scenes, because, I found this community of Star Wars fans on Substack. It's mostly positive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if there's negative people or Substacks out there, I don't know. I'm avoiding those. But for the most part, my experience has been positive. And one of my someone who said they loved my Substack, and he was just like, "Hey, are you taking submissions?" And he's like, and I was like, "Well, it's called my favorite Star Wars theme.
It's not called your
That's
favorite; it's called my
yeah,
favorite.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so that doesn't really work. And obviously because my list was already pre-written, I couldn't put that guy in there. But it
Mm-hmm.
got me thinking. I was just like, maybe that's because my original plan was just do the 100 scenes, me a few afterwards. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's done. But then that got me thinking. I was like, maybe I should invite others to talk about their scenes, talk about, their perspective. What are their favorite scenes?
Mm-hmm.
How do they see them? You know, I did not restrict them. I encourage them. You can write about the scenes I've already written about because
Mm-hmm.
different perspectives are a good thing, you know. But for the most part, they've chosen to do scenes I haven't done. But yeah, they're doing other scenes from the saga, but also from comic books, the shows, the TV shows, and other Star Wars media.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a few writers that who contribute. Now, am I going to contribute? I've actually been thinking about that lately. I might come back to do maybe a few. There's a
Mm-hmm.
few in my mind for like the other movies, like maybe Solo or maybe like The Mandalorian or Obi-Wan Kenobi or something.
Mm-hmm.
I might do that. I'm not promising anything.
That's what's called a
but
teaser, folks.
yeah. but for the most part it's going to be the other writers.
See, that's a really cool idea.
Mm,
Outsource your work. I love it, actually.
mm, mm,
No, I think that's a really cool idea, though, and I have obviously I subscribe to you. I really have enjoyed your scenes. I have been trying to keep up with what everybody else has written, and it's just been I'm barely keeping up with my own writing right now.
That's
But
okay.
I really did like too. I saw people picking, like you said, either the cartoons or different TV shows or whatever. So I think that's really cool, and it's definitely it's always interesting to see like kind of what people focus on, what kind of moves somebody, or what they kind of cue in on, just to see like you know what would I view that scene the same way, maybe not. And if nothing else, I think both the stuff that you wrote and what other people are writing, it always, if nothing else, it makes you think about it.
Yeah, it's just
all right.
The reason why I wrote the list was because I just wanted to kind of, there's so much negativity in Star Wars fandom. I mean, let's face it. And I just wanted to kind of I wanted to spread the love, just kind of put some positive energy into it, which is, and I didn't intentionally, pick scenes from all 9 movies to be inclusive. I mean, these are really my favorite scenes. And, and hopefully it just gets people to think about these scenes or maybe rethink them, because one scene that was rather high on my list. I didn't rank them each numerically. That would have driven me insane. I basically did tier maker before I even knew what tier maker was. I realized that as someone introduced me to tier maker, I'm just like, wait a minute, my list is like this. Anyway, and there was one scene that I had my friend Nate, who I'm doing this interview because I'm borrowing his laptop and everything. I'm in his place. And one of the scenes that was high up in the gold category was just Dooku flying in the Coruscant. And people are just people don't even remember that scene. He said he had to go look it up on YouTube. He had to go look it up. and I totally get that. I wasn't offended. Yeah, it's you never hear about it. But I think when I first saw it, when I first saw it,
I was going to say that is one when I.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is talking over each other. No, that is one when I was reviewing your list when we were getting ready to talk. I was like I knew the scene, I could kind of picture it, but I also was like, okay, that's a choice. But no, it is a cool scene. And when I read your explanation as to kind of why it was in there, I was like, okay, like I get where he's coming from.
Yeah. It's so evocative and foreboding, and it's just like it's like a kind of a tone poem, and which is the thing that George Lucas is so good at. And the scene that really resonated with me that was done kind of in the same style was Anakin and Padme looking at each other right before he turns to the dark side. That to me was the ultimate, visual poetry scene of Star Wars. And this was, in the same vein, but not as great. But it was just like, it's like this is, there's something brewing here. This is it. This is the darkness. This could be the end of the Republic. Of course we know that, but But for someone who's watching it for the first time, it's very, very haunting scene. With and then all it is just he just flies in. Here's some creepy music. There's some dark visuals. That's it. But I loved it. I've always loved it.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think I'm gonna go back and watch it on YouTube or queue it up on Disney Plus when we're done, because it's probably been a while since I've seen Attack of the Clones. So I may go give that another watch. So one thing I always do kind of like to ask people too is kind of what's your Star Wars origin story? Like how did you get into it?
One of my earliest memories is watching A New Hope on television.
Okay.
I think I'm not sure how, because I couldn't have been any more than 3 or 4 years old. And my earliest memory was of the trench runs.
Okay.
And here I am in my, I can even remember what I was thinking as a child. Was that I was just like, oh gosh, these bad guys keep getting behind the good guys and blasting them. It's like, what's going to happen here, And then when Han comes, and then Han comes in and gets somebody like, oh, okay, they're going to get them from behind. And he's like, there, now they're defeated. That was it. That's my earliest Star Wars memory. Was the trench runs, Han coming in to save the day.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that if the sequels had not been made, that scene would have made my top 10. But it was in the gold category, but close. It was close. And so yeah, that's my earliest Star, and I've always loved Star Wars.
Yeah.
And my more solid memories were before I went to school, I'm like 4 years old. And I would watch Return of the Jedi just about every day. I'm not kidding. Weekdays, when I had a stay-at-home mom. My dad and my siblings, I have much older siblings. They were at school. It was just me and my mother. And yeah, let's face it, she put me in front of the TV, and so that she could do whatever, her housework or whatever. And yeah, and every day I watched Return of the Jedi. And it was not even like the tape. They like taped it off HBO.
Oh, okay.
One of my fond memories of it was that my mother had to cue it to just the right place, and there was two movies on that. There were several things on that tape. One of the things was Karate Kid. that came first, and then it was Return of the Jedi on the tape.
That's it's pretty good 1980s double feature.
Right. So the ending of the Karate Kid was like a really big part of my childhood, because my mom was just like, close enough, okay, you just watch this. She wasn't always exact. And the funny thing is, I didn't even watch Karate Kid in its entirety until I was an adult. I don't know, but anyways, but that last scene was part of my childhood.
I would say you knew that one by heart.
Yeah.
What was the first Star Wars movie that you saw in the theaters?
Well, A New Hope, because obviously I didn't see the original versions,
right?
Because I wasn't alive yet. I was born 1984, and so 1997 special editions.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I was a little too young. I would have been -3 years old for A New Hope. I would have been like 3 months old for Empire.
Right.
So I mean, I guess theoretically, I probably could have seen Jedi in the theater, but my parents were not into Star Wars. I tried when I first started Death Star HR. I happened to be home, and I tried. You guys were alive in 1977. Any memories? And they were like, "Oh yeah, I guess I remember hearing about it, but no, we didn't go see it." I was like, "Well, this was a good idea to try to get some content. You guys aren't helping me out though."
Yeah, well, I came. My family were, I wouldn't say huge Star Wars fans, but they were Star Wars fans. Like I said, I had much older siblings. They had the toys. The toys obviously went to me. These are the original toys from the late 70s, early 80s. And my parents also liked the movies. They weren't big fans, but they liked the movies. And so yeah, there you go.
It is interesting, I think, for people kind of in our general age range, because we obviously were not alive or not old enough to be a really original trilogy people, to really to see it in the theaters and have it in
we're not first generation fans.
Yeah, people, not like people who were born in 1970, say, but by the time the prequels came along, we're not adults. Well, I guess I would have been over 18, but we're old enough that we kind of have our what we like about Star Wars. Our not maybe fully formed opinions, but it's not like being, 7 years old and seeing the prequels then. So I always think it's kind of a weird, if you're kind of in that 80 to 85, birth range, it's kind of a weird timing for Star Wars fans.
Right. Yeah, when we were growing up, it was what they called the kind of the dark ages of Star Wars. Where all we had were the books, which I tried reading them, I couldn't get into them. I mean, I'm not trying to trash them. I'm not saying they're bad books. Like I said, I just couldn't get into them.
It's funny because like I watched Star Wars growing up, when I was, younger, but I liked it, but it wasn't like my number one thing. And then in I think it was 1991 when the first Thrawn trilogy came out, or the first book of the Thrawn trilogy. I'm pretty sure it was 91. And like whatever it was about that, like, and I've always been a big reader, but not even really like sci-fi. But I don't know what it was. Like my friends and I all kind of like, somebody got the book and everybody loaned it to everybody, and that was kind of really where it took off. Was I was really an expanded universe type of person. And I also, we had I'm trying to think what year it would have been. A few years later, like 95, 96, whenever, Magic the Gathering came out, and then everybody came out with like a trading card game, and we all had the Star Wars one from Decipher.
Yes, I used to collect that like crazy.
I even had them up until maybe within the last 5 to 6 years. I finally ended up selling them, and I kind of wish I had kept them now, just for I could do something with them. But they survived. I gotta think how many moves. 1, 2, 3, probably like 4 or 5 moves from Michigan, where I'm from, down to Texas. And they always just sat in a closet. And finally I was just like, well, they're just taking up space. Like I should just I put them on eBay, and now I kind of wish I had them. But you're absolutely you're absolutely right about it kind of being a dark time, in that they're just, you had the expanded universe and kind of stuff like that. But I don't think in 1991, I don't think anybody could have predicted, we're going to get the special editions, and then we're going to get the prequels. And then I really don't think, even after Revenge of the Sith in 2005, I think if you told a lot of Star Wars fans, okay, in 10 years from now, you're going to get 5 movies, however many TV shows, like nobody would believe you.
No.
Oh, and Disney's going to do it too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry, I'm being kind of anal here, but I said I didn't get into the books. That wasn't true. One book I did get into, and that was Shadows of the Empire. I loved Shadows of the Empire.
That is something I have wanted to do kind of a deep dive on for a while, because you had the book, the comic book, or comic books. I think it was like, I don't know how many there were, but I know there was this little series to it. You had action figures. You had the video game. I think that's what most people probably remember, is the video game. Because I mean, it's funny. I went and watched it like on YouTube just to play through a while ago, and I was like, the only parts, obviously everybody remembers the Battle of Hoth at the beginning, like, because that's just so cool. And I was like, I remember fighting IG-88, and I remember like there's a swoop bike level, and I don't know if the two are related. But I think honestly, after the first level, like if you ask most people about it, they'd be like, yeah, I know there was more. I just don't know what it was.
Well, I remember it quite well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can name them all like by memory, but I'd be able to name most of the levels.
Do you fight Boba Fett in there as well? I can't remember.
Yes.
That's what I thought. All right.
Because but of course he gets away.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Man, Shadows of the Empire. Oh, and there was a soundtrack too. I have the soundtrack on vinyl. And all right, we're going longer than I anticipated. All right, couple things, then we'll wrap up. So we've got, it's been 11 years since since Force Awakens. I guess we've got couple new movies in the pipeline, Ahsoka season 2. So kind of high level overview. What are your thoughts on the current state of Star Wars?
It's good. I mean, I'm not, you
Good.
know, I try not to be negative, and I do
Mm-hmm.
like. I haven't seen it all. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
based on what I have seen, I've really liked. Okay, I can't off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I really disliked overall. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean it's different than it used to be, but hey, things get different. I mean, you know, just roll with it. You know, hey, we're
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to Mandalorian, Grogu, and
Mm-hmm.
Starfighter, and I'm really hoping that they do those Ray New Jedi Order movies. Well, we'll see. but
Yeah.
here's the thing:
You know,
if they do those films, don't name them 10, 11, 12. Just the Skywalker saga
mm-hmm.
is done. All the Skywalkers have passed away. You know, they can call them whatever you want. Just don't call them 10, 11, 12. That's the only thing I want.
There you go. I would agree with that. I just think whenever I hear Rey New Jedi Order, I just think of the New Jedi Order books, and I was just like, those. I don't know. I can't just. I mean, they're anything from Legends. They can't. It's tough to shoehorn something like that into the current timeline. They just kind of more pick and choose little bits that they like. All right, we're closing in on almost an hour here, so I think we're pretty good. So Chris,
Mhm.
thanks again for coming on. I definitely appreciate that. This was a lot of fun. Tell people again where they can find you on Substack.
Yeah, it's I don't have my address memorized, but I guess it's Substack. I guess it's Substack.ChristopherWilbur.com. I think. Well, it's called Our
We'll put a
Favorites.
link to it in the show. Well,
It's called
our
Our
favorite
Favorite
Star Wars
Star
scenes on
Wars Scenes.
Substack. Yeah,
Mm,
our favorite Star Wars scenes on Substack. I'll put a link to it in the show notes so you don't have to go try to
mm,
find it on your own. Um,
yeah.
And of course, always make sure check out the Death Star Human Resources Department at
Hmm.
deathstarhr.com. Chris, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciated it.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I've never done this before, so I
Uh,
hope hope it turns out well. It gets a lot of um, attention for you.
hey, nothing, you can't go wrong talking about Star Wars. So thanks again,
Mm.
everybody. Make sure you check out Chris. Make sure you check out the Death Star HR, and may the Force be with you.
Force be with you.